Can you introduce yourself to us?
Yes, my name is Toy Bernard. I'm a very outgoing person. I'm happy to be in this interview today.
So I heard that you had an accident. Can you tell me what happened to you on that day?
Well, on that day, I was actually driving home from church, and what had happened was it was raining very hard, and I just decided I wanted to get home as soon as possible. So I opted to get on the highway, and that's when my car did slide, and it was a very disastrous situation. I was very scared, and luckily I did survive, but my car was destroyed. But I'm happy I did not sustain many injuries.
So, what were you doing before the incident?
Well, I was actually at church. What happens with our church is we often have a few of us that will stay after to clean. And on that day, many of them actually left. We had a very large crowd that day. So I actually had to stay a little bit later. And after staying a little bit later, I decided to leave. I was a little bit tired from the day. And coincidentally, it was raining on that day as well. After I decided to leave a little bit later. That's what I was really doing before, I got in my car accident.
Do you know the exact time in which you left the church?
Well, after cleaning longer than usual, it was dark. I would say probably around 5, 6, or 7. Probably around 6 or 7 because we usually get them done at around 4 on a hard day. But I believe we actually had another church on that day, so we actually had to stay a little bit later. So I think it was 6 or 7. When the sun had gone down, and I do remember it was very dark that night when I was involved in my car accident.
When you left the church, were you going home or were you planning on going somewhere else?
Well, actually, I was planning on going home. Something I don't normally do. Normally after church on Sunday, I would use that time to stop, for shopping, hitting these local stores, all these little grocery. It's always been a very good time for me, based on my schedule to really go about and get some of these errands run. But on that day, I was so tired that I was just deciding to go home, which is why I decided to just really get on the highway instead of taking the back roads. Really, just get on the highway to get home as soon as possible.
I know you said it was raining that day, but how bad was it raining? Was it no little rain or was it heavy?
Well, it was actually heavy. Um, I mean, the kind of not that it was so foggy really, but it actually rained a lot during that month. So I was used to the heavy rain. I believe it was during the that October November time, right before it really starts to get cold in December. So I was already used to that kind of heavy, driving like heavy kind of weather, where you're have low visibility, slippy road. I got used to it. I thought my tires were used to it, so uh, it wasn't really a difficult thing in my mindset, really.
So, did the accident took place on the highway or on the streetway?
Oh, it wasn't a highway. That night, I really wanted to rush home very quick. I was tired. I actually had class in the morning on that day, on the next day actually. So I just wanted to get home as soon as possible. I just wanted to, really get home and get some rest. Really, that was my purpose of using the highway.
Why did you choose the highway? Even though it was raining, is that the only way home or there's another way?
Well, it was the fastest way for me. My mindset in that time, I just wanted to get home as much as possible. Well, as soon as possible, rather. I was used to rain falling, just because of the month it was in. It was in the month of November, really. Right before we get into that really cold weather that we get in December. So I was used to the rain. I was used to that you know danger of driving on the highway in the rain. So I just decided I just wanted to get home as soon as possible, regardless of what it took. I was just wanted to get some rest.
Okay. So, do you believe that the accident could have been avoided if you chose to not to use the highway?
I believe that partially. Now, at that time, I was actually very young. This happened about 4 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago. I was still in college. So at that time, my mindset of driving was not as safe as it is now. I was much of a speeder. driving around, 80, 90 miles per hour. I'm gonna admit it. Never got a speeding ticket for it, but I always avoided those authorities. Now, regardless, at that time, my car did have an issue with struts. Struts are what are used to keep your car balanced. When you're hitting objects in the road, and keep your car from veering off. Now, at that time, my struts were pretty much, let's say, 10% strong. So at that time, I knew about it. I had plans to fix it, but unfortunately, I just didn't have the money to really fix that repair in my car. So like many people, I just kept on driving. I was not ignorant, but I just could not afford to fix it. Uh, Even for the parts, the parts are very expensive. So I just decided I was going to drive on this and just wait until I could find the money to fix this part. And it's something I did experience before. There are other times when I was driving the highway, even on perfect conditions, sun shining, no wind, and even then my car would swivel around a little bit. And I did see this, but I never thought much of it. But it was only until I drove so fast in the rain that the day just did come that my car did give up on me, and I really did feel the consequences of not maintaining my car like it should have been maintained. And that is why I believe that if I had taken the regular streetway, I could have definitely avoided this accident. That's what I should have done. Yeah.
So, what happened after the accident? Were you hurt?
Well, during the accident, what happened was my car actually slid. What was happening was I was actually trying to, get on the fast lane, so I could get home quickly. And in getting on the fast lane, I was actually passing two lanes at once. You're only supposed to safely pass, one lane at a time. I was just passing two lanes, trying to really cruise through this, and that's when my car did slide. My car slid and I hit the railing. And as scary as it was in that moment, the result after was actually very heartwarming. You know, there were about five different cars that literally, stopped, and the people who were driving really came to help me. My car was in the fast lane, blocking the fast lane. There was no traffic, so people really had to come and help me. Because a tow truck, to get a tow truck out there would have taken me, a few hours. And just because of the time it was in, it was, Sunday night, just less available at that time, you know. So I'm very thankful and heartwarming that God allows people to come and help me at a very dark time. It was definitely the darkest time of that day, and one of the darkest days of my life. And then, the ambulance came. They checked me. I had no injuries, and I felt very, very happy that things didn't go as bad as they should have been. Yeah.
So, was there anything you learned from the experience?
Well, I learned to not take life as fast as you want it to be. At times, you just have to really, let time take its time. If it takes you, 20 minutes to get home, let it take 20 minutes instead of 10 minutes at times. You don't want to get in a car accident like I did. So that's one thing I learned.
So, final question. What advice would you give to other young people like yourself?
Well, normally in these kind of interviews, they will tell you to don't drink and drive. But in this kind of situation, my question and really my advice really to you is don't be anxious and drive. Wherever you're going, make sure you know where you're going. Make sure the weather is great. Don't try to, really get to where you're trying to go by taking shortcuts. And that's a mistake I made, knowing the weather is bad. I still want to take a shortcut, and look where it got me. So I'm thankful that I do have this advice to give to other young people who have gone through this, and especially for those who have not gone through this, who have not really gone into a near-death experience like I did. And we do hope that you don't go through that by listening to this advice today.